This is the Pennsylvania Parade, and I'm P.J. O'Connell. In 1990, Penn State Public Broadcasting began production of a documentary series that examined the experiences of black residents of central Pennsylvania. It was titled Americans Too, and this is another of those reports. It details a complex series of events involving the police chief, black, of a small community with a higher than average number of black residents. There is abundant, probably racial, controversy surrounding the chief, but of greater significance is the attempt to organize community sentiment in his support. Community organization is the necessary base for community power and influence in our rural communities, as elsewhere. And organizational success or failure is perhaps the key ingredient of this particular set of black experiences in rural America.
Kill, bomb, burn, fear, the Klan. Unusual words in rural America, but this is an unusual case. Mount Union, Pennsylvania is a small community with 2,900 residents. 11% of them are black, unusual in rural Pennsylvania, where the black population is more frequently on the order of 1 to 2%. And Mount Union is unusual in other ways. A self-proclaimed militant minister is president of the local chapter of the NAACP, and the community has had a black chief of police. In 1987, Mount Union prepared to hire a new police chief. One candidate was Joseph Rogers, a Mount Union native who had left the community after high school and served 20 years with the New York City Police Department. When another individual withdrew at the last minute, Rogers was the only remaining candidate.
I had been told that I should attend the council meeting that night to see what would go on. I said, well, I don't see that there should be any problem since there was only two candidates and I'm the only one left, so it seemed like automatically that I would be getting the position. But the vote was against me being hired. So several people from the community got up and spoke, saying, they didn't think that this was fair, what's going on here. So they went back and took a second vote, in which after the second vote they then hired me. So shortly after that, after my hire, in fact, I think it was a couple days after, I wrote a letter to the editor of the local paper, the Huntington Daily News, explaining to him how I felt about what went on that night and how I was affected by the racism itself that was displayed. I think not too many people liked what I did in that respect, but I didn't really care because I was the one that was the offended party, I felt, so that I was perfectly in my right for saying what I had to say about it.
Chief, is Gummo gone for the day?
Yes, he's gone.
Okay.
Reportedly, there was animosity between Rogers and the mayor and some borough council members. But matters only came to a head 3 years later when Rogers was suspended by a new mayor for refusing an order to help install borough parking meters. The 10-day suspension was not made public until Rogers requested a public hearing, which turned noisy when Borough Council chose to reduce the suspension to 5 days rather than rescind it. The crowded meeting included many individuals from the local black community and a delegation from Noble, a professional group of black police officers supporting Rogers.
He's going to share with us some concern. One, Police Chief Joe Rogers, 5-day suspension. And everybody know about that, and Dave Gibson is here today, and he was at Mount Union High School in the public meeting.
Marvin Philip Morris, pastor of African Methodist Episcopal churches in Mount Union and neighboring Huntington, and president of the Huntington County chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
Also into this, I got a letter from the Ku Klux Klan also, and I waited for a while to even say anything about it, but I did get one from them, so I'll pass that around.
Several Ku Klux Klan rallies had been held in surrounding communities in recent years. The local Klan leader, whose name was typed on the letter, denied having written or authorized the letter. Stating that the Klan is in charge in Mount Union, the letter also mentioned Noble, the organization of black officers which had shown support for Rogers. State representatives of Noble were at the NAACP meeting.
Anytime that the Ku Klux Klan or any other group that the principal motive is ethnic intimidation is part of the mandate of Noble to reach out and do what we can. But most of all here is we have a member, a brother, Joe Rogers, who needs us, and we're here to offer that support. But we do not want this to die. We do not want the apathy of the community to override the need of a competent black chief of police. It's absolutely essential that we remove this apathy. And we feel that each and every one of you, and we will help any way we possibly can to get that message to the community. The man was railroaded. We sat there and I thought I was in Stone Mountain, Georgia on the 21st of August. I'm not saying that to be facetious. I left there extremely disturbed. And it cannot die. It's because what happens is you let Joe Rogers' issue die. The next it's going to be you, it's going to be you, and eventually it's going to come outside of this community, it's going to be me. You got to get the folks of Mount Union, both black and white, together and override this cancer before this cancer eats you alive. We will be with you. But you have to get these people moving. You're the catalyst of the community. We're outsiders. But we will help you any way we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. But I hear you talking, but as I said, we sent out maybe 75 letters, and you see who's here now. I've heard people from my church and other churches say, Reverend, it's been going on ever since I've been here. I've been here 65 years, born here, and it ain't gonna change. And how can I, an outsider, come here, you know? It's becoming very frustrating to stay here because I don't have the support of the black community. And they don't want it, they're complacent, and they want to just stay in this situation. To me, I feel that I'm going to try my best, and when I feel that they don't need me, then I'm gone.
You know, I heard you make the statement earlier is that if they don't need me, they need you.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no reason to even think about people not needing you. But you need to bring that out. You need to bring those role models in. You have a dinner, we'll be here. What you see here plus more. You have any type of thing for Joe Rogers. Joe's deserving of it. And I think for Joe's sake is he's been barraged with the negative aspect of a white racist city council. And I wish the press was here because I'd tell him that. All right, let's bring it out and let's tell what the man's all about.
Change does not always make things better, but they never get better without change. And so we have to tell those people that says, I've been here for 65 years and nothing's changed. We got to do something to make it change.
People are experiencing a lot of negativity, and it's all racist based, but they have no hope. And until you give them one example that it can be done, they're going to have no hope. And until you start generating some interest and you start breaking through that apathetic attitude and you start bringing in some positive stuff, even if outsiders do have to make up the bulk of your attendance at times, after a while people will start saying things like, well, you know, they had that dinner 2 years ago and so-and-so and so-and-so was there. And so-and-so met such and such who did so-and-so for them, and that network starts. And if you do nothing, nothing from nothing is nothing. So if you don't take any action, you're not going to get any action.
And a lot of the older people, they never seen racism. I mean, they said there's no racism here. Well, I don't know how they can't see it. You can cut it with a knife. But this is what I'm saying. They come complacent as long as they have their little homes and they're retired and their Social Security checks and stuff. But they don't know that things like that, they burn their home down, where they're going to go. The Social Security check is not going to get you another new home. Do you know what I'm saying?
I am one of those people who have lived here for 65 years. Believe it or not. But I have. Right out there in Allenport. And I have been a nigger for so long. But you know, my mother always said, if you keep your mouth shut, as long as they don't hit you, come on home. And I try to tell my grandkids that. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. They're ready to fight. But and I'm on your side. God knows I am. But in the meantime, I got upset down at the schoolhouse at that council meeting that night, because when they started hollering racism, I said, good God, I said, why are they doing that? I'm thinking to myself, I said, they shouldn't have done that. I said, what they should have done, sometimes you have to leave sleeping dogs lie.
No.
If you get, let me finish what I'm going to say.
I'm sorry.
If you're going to get your big guns out, you know, why don't? If you're going to get all these people involved in this.
That's right. If you're going to pull them out, shoot them. Don't bring them out to scare them.
You don't think about it as a local issue. This is an area issue. It's a state issue. It's have to be handled that way. And yes, I think it's a racist deal, absolutely. There's a plan. And I think it's only made more bona fide by this idiot, David. The idiot. And you got to show these narrow-minded individuals that there's more to it than the KKK tells you there is.
I think that idiot's letter has done more to help us than ever. There's always that paranoia that you folks are getting upset about nothing. But something like this can really bring it home, and you can't go back to say that we believe, we think, we know. Whether or not this guy's a complete idiot or not matters not.
That's true.
He wrote the letter. There's something tangible that we can talk about.
Reverend Morris sent copies of the Klan letter to area news organizations. 3 nearby newspapers ran a resulting wire service story on the front pages of their Sunday editions. The result was an intense reaction among many Mount Union residents.
We were a little bit upset at the article even appearing in print. We don't really have the black-white issue that people think we have here in Mount Union.
It's unfair because I think Mount Union gets a lot of bad press. I think that it's very easy for people to pick on our community and always find something negative to write about. And
I first heard about the incident at my bridge club, and we were all upset that something had been written in one of the other papers bashing Mount Union. This racism is such a horrible thing, and it exists everywhere. I don't know that everyone's always honest in discussing this subject. I am not aware of any racism in our town. That is, overt, ugly things. Maybe they exist. I do not know.
They never had nothing carrying. They never carried on like that before with any of the other chief of police. So what else could it be but prejudice? That's the way I feel about it.
Mount Union never had a black person in authority. I think it was pretty intimidating. When Joe came along, people just didn't want to hear of that around here.
We've had situations here where new people or people who have come back to the community believe that the community could be a better one if they made changes that these people recommend because they took place in other communities. And our people resent that here, really. They don't want to. They've lived this way for 40 years or more, and they're not anxious to just overnight change things because someone, in someone's opinion, it would be better a different way.
I don't really see it as a major problem. I don't really see the need for any outside agencies, outside people coming into Mount Union and trying to solve these problems. I think they create more problems than they solve. The KKK has no business coming in here. The NAACP has no business coming in here. We can take care of all of our problems on a local level, and we can do a good job of it if they let us be and let us do it.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At the next Borough Council meeting, local anger over the newspaper story about Ku Klux Klan influence in Mount Union was evident.
I don't know how to put this to you, but by God, I'm getting tired of it. I better not. I better just stop it at that.
Okay.
Because I'm going to blow my stack.
Okay, if you feel better with that, going into something of that nature, fine.
We discussed
Mayor Robert Zook, whose suspension of Chief Rogers had touched off the controversy, offered no opinions, but upset council members did find they had some small comfort to point to. The local newspaper serving the Mount Union area did not run the wire service story, nor any report on the Klan letter. Instead, it ran an editorial decrying the release of the letter to the media and the presumed damage to Mount Union's image.
I thank the Daily News for the fine editorial that we had in the paper here just recently. We've gotten some very bad publicity, which I do not think they can justify. And of course, it was not through any of our local papers. And I think we are not deserving of that type of editorial from the outside papers. And it's very nice to see that a local newspaper and editor knows what's going on in Mount Union. And from me as council president, and I know this is the feeling of the council, we thank you very much for this. All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
And they said they were not giving KKK no publicity in Huntington County. And I understood that point, but it still hit back here from the local papers around, Associated Press. Like Arnie was saying down in Mount Union, the community down there, the leaders are saying that, you know, I started something, I shouldn't have published a letter. I said, but remember, Associated Press tried.
When the NAACP next met, reactions to the Klan letter were still being discussed, along with more fundamental problems facing the black community in Huntington County.
Anybody get a letter from the Klan, whether it's signed or not signed, whether it's a copy or you know, taking a letterhead and somebody typed it. You think you're going to sit by and not say a word to nobody? So I said, well, it's time now to let people. And I get calls, people hang up and stuff. So you don't know what's going on. You know, you don't know. And so for me, living where I live, and I said, I don't know what people may do, you know. And much as I go and come, I don't know who, you know. I had to let people know that something is happening, whether it was just a small group of people. I'm sure it was those people who was at the Mount Union High School auditorium that night of the public hearing. Some of those Klan members.
To your knowledge, is the Klan recruiting in that area?
Literature is going in there.
There's some in the Mount Union School. My son saw a card that says about the Klans and what blacks aren't in the bathroom. He took it to his English teacher. The English teacher tore it up. She did not report it to the principal nor the administrator of the school. He told me about it, and I approached them that Friday morning. This was on Thursday. Well, how did you know? Well, my son came home and told me. But this is the type of thing that we're dealing with. They're afraid. They don't want any information spread around. But I feel it's wrong for a teacher to find a student to give a teacher this information and her not to forward this information to her supervisor, and then he takes it to his supervisor, and then a kid would have to tell you about it at home. And I think that that's sad when the school is not supporting these kids and want to get in there, and they want the children to participate in sports to give them a name, but that's it.
He followed his kids at all the games, basketball, football. He got 3 sons, and he says down on the basketball court, you hear the other school saying, "Get that nigger, get that nigger." And this is things that are going on in football and basketball when Huntington goes out to these outlying areas. And saying some of these kids has become friends to some of the kids in Huntington, you know, I'm talking about the white kids. And they tell that the kids, that what goes on in the locker room at halftime, you know. So the coach is saying, you know, we can't look bad, let them nigger. You know, this is bad role model. And this is what we're hearing. It's not just Mount Union. Huntington is, you know, is experiencing the same thing. Until these kids get on their own, they realize finally they're black, they're not white, you know. But as Mount Union paper said the other day, that everything is just copacetic. That the kids get along, and if they fight, it's not because of black and white issues, because just can get along.
I also understood that Martin Luther King Day is not recognized in the schools.
Right. No.
There.
They give our children 2 days Thanksgiving. Then that following Monday and Tuesday, they give them off to hunt deer. Then a week or something goes by and they give them another day to hunt, is it buck first and females and next, whichever, because I'm not into it. But they give them 3 days, off to hunt. So, you know, it does not benefit the majority of the black kids about a deer. It benefits the white people because they put that in their freezers because some of us don't eat that type of meat. Do you know what I'm saying? So he can see he says, well, we don't want to change those days because I hunt. So you see, that's a benefit to him because he hunts that as a sport, but something as famous as a black man who has fought for equality, not for black, but for white, but for all mankind, here on this front and across the waters, they don't want to honor that. But they want to go out here and kill an animal. Do you know what I'm saying?
I want ministers from Mount Union I don't have no problem with Huntington pastors, but I have a problem with Mount Union ministers participating. Only J.D. Zabalaba, the Catholic priest, is at every Martin Luther King celebration. But when I bring it up to those over there, it's a controversy subject. I said, how can it be controversy if you're American when the government said it's a national holiday? How can it be a controversy? You're not American? This is what I get from my pastors over there, and they're somewhat young. Then I hear from some of the pastors saying to me, well, they have good intentions, but they're congregations, because they say, we got racist people in our congregation. We may even have Klan members. They tell me that. Huntington will not tell me that, but Mount Union pastors will tell me that. So they're limited because they're called by the congregation.
We want to look at the cultural and artistic expressions, which has to do with the Arts Festival, Black History Month, and so forth.
Clive Muir, coordinator of the Mount Union Community Outreach Program, was helping plan activities for the black community.
And how the people in the community can cooperate, because it's when they act as individuals and when they don't share information and act as a community that things happen, that you have people coming in with letters, that people come in and use that kind of division to cause conflict and problems. So can you identify people in Mount Union who,
would do what?
Would be willing to cooperate?
We can identify people that say they will do things, but when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, they don't show up.
Huntington, we're having everything is lovely over here. We don't have nobody, Mrs. Day and myself and Cynthia. See what I'm saying? I mean, so much is, we have to come together and this grieves me when I have a meeting. I get all these people from out of town supporting us. Nobody here. We're so complacent. Because I don't have to stay here, Yeah. Church get done. I say, Bishop, please send me elsewhere, and I can go on elsewhere, and gone. I said, well, I done made my stay. People know my name, and I'm gone. I have no family here to really stay here. Sell the house and move on. But I'm here for a cause. See, people are going to be supportive, and that's the only way we can get things done. But I know it looks deep, bleak and grim when your own people don't support you.
The Human Relations Conference concerning the complaint is, fact-finding conference concerning the complaint was filed by Chief Rogers will be held.
At the November Borough Council meeting, the Joe Rogers controversy continued to drag on, but the council had other police department business on its agenda as well.
The Public Safety Committee met, which you appointed. You said that we were to meet to discuss this classification of police officers. And when we met, we decided at the meeting to demote all patrolmen to one status. We had met and we decided, and my three people with me decided to eliminate those.
Your recommendation was to eliminate everybody in patrol.
Right.
Well, I make a motion, we go through with the demotion.
What is your motion?
We go through with that demotion.
Well, you can't call it a demotion, then you'll be in big problems.
Okay.
You're abolishing the positions. But what we'd have to do then is we'll have to then re-notify re-advertise the ordinance.
Okay. Eliminate the position. I'm making a motion that we eliminate the chief of police position, the assistant chief of police position, and the sergeant's position.
I will.
All right.
Boyd Gill.
Yeah.
Edward Talif.
No.
Nathaniel Trice.
No.
Alan Welch.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yes.
Motion carries.
So I need some help and this community to get a president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and an executive board to work for the betterment of our community, because the Black Arts Festival is just a few months away, and the Freedom Fund dinner is approaching.
At the next NAACP meeting, police department concerns were put aside while Reverend Morris attempted to deal with more immediate problems. Local participation in the chapter's plans for a second Black Arts Festival was lagging.
So it's going to be a hard struggle to put it together, and what done happened here recently and everything here, it may be harder. Like here, the editor of the Valley Log is saying the Black Arts Festival is a no-no for Huntington County. You know, this is the thing we're getting here in Mount Union. The people in Huntington, white citizens there, more favorable. But these people here in Mount Union have said no, no. You might have Klan there this year. The white community is down my throat here in Mount Union, more so.
Right.
So these are the things I am catching it from all kind of ends. I walk into any businesses here and they says, you know, you read this, you see what went down. So, you know, we need to start. I don't know if Clive come up with Black Arts Festival, but you need to start formulating. And
it's not, I mean, it's not something that we can plan outside and then bring here. Obviously, it has to be something that is that comes from the community itself. So but we have to put a lot of responsibilities on ourselves. We cannot wait for any council or any NAACP or any whoever to do things for us. We have to put things, we have to start doing things for ourselves. The days of Martin Luther King are over. No one, I mean, everyone wants to be rich, everyone wants to have a BMW these days, and not everyone, but you know what I mean. Everyone's looking out for himself or herself these days. You have to put a lot of responsibilities on yourself. There's nobody who's going to come and deliver you to the mountaintop and look down. Amen. Not anymore. If that doesn't happen, then I'm sorry, but I don't think I can come down here and, you know, and work with nobody. And I don't want to work with Reverend Morris and Jeanette alone. I mean, I think they're doing enough. And a few other people. We want commitment from a lot of other people. Okay, so.
I understand that, but I'm concerned about Mount Union and Huntington area, black and white, coming together and putting this thing together, not waiting to the last few weeks like we did. I mean, a lot of the people in the community getting excited at the last minute, you know. Yeah. But I even appreciate those supporters that come to the meetings. May not even say a word. They're supporting us. I appreciate that. But we see what's happening. Nobody is showing up at meetings unless you bring 9 or 10 from Penn State or, you know. But the main thing is the black community there. And we have about 100 and some members. You know what I'm saying? I know they pay their membership, but I know the Veterans Day parade is today. They're there in the rain. But here, you know, here we sit here.
I got a cold and I don't feel like going over and over and over the same thing. But I will work. The Arts Festival will go on. Helen has offered to help. There are people who are willing to help. I will be responsible on this end with Mount Union. Helen will help me. I'll get some other people to help me. You know, we will do it. We're going to make a positive effort. There will be a second Black Arts Festival in Huntington County. So that's the end of that. Next.
I think if we don't take the attitude that Jeanette says, we'll sit on the shelf for another year. I mean, some people are just hard to pull out. If you don't have something big going in their personal life, they don't reach out for NAACP. And it's not that they're not interested, but this community here has been smothered so much in trying to keep a job or get a job in the white community that they fear. They won't say they fear, but that's what they do. They fear involvement because Mr. White is looking over their shoulder, and there's no black bosses in this community. You have to answer to the white man. And I'm not saying that all is like that, because there's big big factories here, but it still adds up the same. You only have a few faces, and you're only going to get a few involvement until there's a need.
Everybody understand what this ordinance is about? It's the abolishing of the position of Chief of Police, Assistant Chief of Police, and Sergeant of the Police Department. If we abolish them, you've got to consider who is going to be in charge of the police department.
In December, Borough Council acted on the ordinance to eliminate police department ranks.
I think, in my opinion, you would be ill-advised to do away with these positions. I think there needs to be a hierarchy in the department. I think there has to be someone in charge and then someone in charge when the person who around isn't there. I don't really think that it would make any sense to do this, that it would serve any legitimate ends, and it isn't going to save you any money because you're not going to be able to reduce the salaries of any of these persons by virtue of this. So I think it's just going to create it would be just something that would create a turmoil, and it would be my recommendation to you that you not do away with these positions.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4 yes votes. There are 1, 2, 3 no votes. The motion is approved 4-3 to abolish the positions.
My comment is this: I don't need any answers. I don't think this will be the last that you hear of this, because I think it's a racial motivated resolution. You have had a police chief in the borough of Mount Union for over 30-some years. Now all of a sudden, we're going to do away with the position of chief and assistant chief and whatever. And until we got a black chief of police in this town, and I've been in Mount Union for 12 years, and we've had all kinds of problems all of a sudden because we've got a black chief of police. And I think the council and I think the township of Mount Union needs to get their heads out of the sand and start dealing with this problem so we can progress. And we cannot progress if we have these racially undertones going along. Now this council needs to get their head out of the sand. We just had the Klan here several months ago, and we did nothing about it. I spoke to the solicitor about it. I brought my son here tonight just to see what his future will be here in Mount Union. And right now it is very bleak. Number one, he's a black child. Number two, we have enough unemployment here. And then to have racial overtones and racial things done here in this borough. Some of you gentlemen ought to be ashamed of yourself. And that's my comment. Thank you, Mr. Tallow.
Okay, let's, now we have reports from council.
Dean, my all-side was left here. So I had to completely slow down.
Shortly before the next NAACP meeting, Reverend Morris had unexpectedly spent several days in the hospital.
Worries? Is that what?
Yeah, it was stress.
Stress,
yeah. Stress. We're building a new church in Mount Union and almost done. Don't know how we're going to finance it, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the hassles of every day and the NAACP, all that kind of stuff. New business is plans for the Black Arts Festival, which has been set July 20th, 1991. A year ago it was July 21st. We need to make plans to have it at the Huntington Ball Field and Park.
Is that in Huntington?
The meeting had only 4 members and 8 guests. Planning for the Black Arts Festival was again the principal item of business. In its year-end review of the major news stories of the year, the local newspaper referred briefly to Klan recruitment in Mount Union and carried no mention of the Joe Rogers Borough Council controversy. But the controversy itself continued.
We have a busy schedule tonight, and I would appreciate everybody's attention and give us the opportunity to do the job that we are elected to do.
The January council meeting was packed with business, people, and controversy.
I had a complaint from Joyce Easter that the two police is harassing her, staying down at her house every morning. And Kidd and Hawker, she said she's going to be up here tonight, but she didn't. So I brought it up. I told her that I'd bring it up in council, but I didn't think much would be done because the only thing the mayor's after is Joe Rogers. He ain't after nobody else. So.
Well, I resent that, Mr. Price.
Now, give it.
I'm not after Joe Rogers.
Okay, don't talk to me. I've got the floor now. Let me talk.
Both of you, let's go now. We're in a session here.
Joe Rogers had been suspended by Mayor Zook for alleged misconduct, including drinking and sleeping on the job. Rogers denied the mayor's charges and asked for a public hearing before Borough Council.
Why is it that every time black citizens come up to a council meeting, we have state troopers here?
I don't think there was anyone here the last time you were here.
State troopers here, Marcus. I'll address that.
I'm talking to Mr. Stanko right now.
Well, I don't think he knows why they're here. I do.
Every time we have a council meeting and black citizens come up here, we have state troopers. Now, we didn't have state troopers when this man's son thanked the Klan for coming here.
I think.
See, you know,
the state trooper is here because he's a witness, Marcus.
I resent every time that black folk come up here that you have state troopers here.
I think
now you got 5 state troopers back there. You got 4 or 5 state.
Talking about.
The last time you were here, there wasn't anyone.
No, but every time black people come here, when you get any amount of black people here, you have state troopers here. Now let's be frank about it. You got a racial problem here, and the biggest part of the racial problem is sitting at the table.
Amen.
We don't have to listen to you.
Would you want to do something to me?
Why don't you hang around and see why the state police are here?
You know, I wasn't talking to you.
We're gonna be here.
I wasn't even talking to you.
You have somebody that didn't know.
Well, what is we? You got a mouse in your pocket?
Are you on the agenda?
Or you a mouse? You got a mouse in your pocket? We. Who is we? Frank, will you answer my question now, please?
I just did, Marcus.
Well, we were interrupted. I couldn't hear you because I had a third party in my ear.
The last time you were here, now there wasn't any state police here. Now,
Yeah.
and you made a statement.
You're right, but every time you get any significant amount of black people here, the state troopers go. When we were down to school, for no, there was never a reason given, but the state troopers were there. The Klan was also there.
What Klan? I don't even know a member of the Ku Klux Klan.
Miss Fleming.
Nor do I want to.
Miss Fleming, there were Klan members there.
I was not aware of it.
Well, you weren't aware of it, but I was, and the state police also was aware of it.
We don't need the Ku Klux Klan around here yet.
No, we got enough racial problems by ourselves, period. You're right, we don't need them.
In a few minds.
No, it's not in a few minds.
I have in front of me a notice of suspension.
Borough Solicitor Harvey Reeder conducted the hearing, with attorneys for Rogers and for Mayor Zook questioning various witnesses.
We're handed, for the first time, a series of letters and correspondence that exchanged between Mayor Witzel and Chief Rogers during Mayor Witzel's tenure. And quite frankly, it seems to me we're digging up old skeletons, and we were not prepared to go into this sort of thing that occurred years ago.
I'm inclined to agree with that.
And we don't think that's the law. We think that the council can determine what evidence they will and will not receive. Contrary to everyone's assertion here, this is not a trial. Now, we do have some live witnesses.
My little speech goes like this. If Joe Rogers is not treated right here, big-time civil suit for violation of his civil rights, right against the borough and anybody that has anything to do with it. Big buck civil suit. As long as that's understood,
I'm willing to proceed, but I would prefer not having. I would prefer not having to examine skeletons buried years ago.
After limits on the scope of the hearing were agreed to, the first witness, a Mount Union police officer, testified about events leading up to Joe Rogers' suspension.
And when I went back downstairs, I knocked on the window of the patrol car and to inform Chief Rogers that we were to use 2 patrol cars that evening. When the chief wound the windows down, there was a strong...
Did you notice anything at that point?
Did I notice anything? Yes, there was a strong odor of alcohol.
Coming from the police car?
Coming from inside the police car, yes, sir.
And what conclusion did you draw from that?
Well, from my experience...
is that an objection?
Yes, we object to him.
What's the nature of the objection?
We object. We don't mind. We feel the alcohol is okay, but to talk about his mental conclusions, I think is unfair. We're going to start giving opinions here. There was, as far as I know, no action was taken by this officer that night.
So have you come to the conclusion that Chief Rogers was in fact drinking that evening?
That's leading.
It is leading.
That evening is leading. Very leading.
That is a little leading, Mr. Stewart. I will sustain the objection.
Did you come to any conclusions about Chief Rogers at that point?
Well, now we don't know what to expect, so we're objecting. No foundation for a question like that.
Well, I think
I just don't understand that you can't have it both ways.
Mr. Stewart, I think I'm going to overrule that objection. I think the question in that form is appropriate, but not a question that suggests an answer is the prior one.
As a result of your observations of Chief Rogers, did you come to any conclusions about him at the time you noticed this odor of alcohol coming from the police car?
I would say that the Chief Rogers was drinking prior to the time that I'd seen him, yes.
All right.
Fine.
A Pennsylvania State Police officer was the next witness.
But if this is just another witness to establish that Joe Rogers had alcohol on his breath, had the odor of alcohol about him, to put this out in the open, we will stipulate that Rogers had alcohol to drink on the day in question, but much earlier in the day, and not when he was on duty.
Well,
now, I mean, if that shortens this at all, if you have somebody who can say, yeah, Joe was drinking while he was on duty, fine, but we will stipulate that, yes, Joe may have had the odor of alcohol about him that evening.
Were you present when Chief Rogers was asked where he had been and why he had not responded to radio calls?
I was, yes.
And what was his response to that question?
He responded that he didn't hear the call.
Did he say he was on patrol?
He said he was on patrol, but he didn't hear the call. The initial exchange between the chief and myself was he asked why I was here. He had some curiosity about that. And I explained to him that I wasn't here to investigate. I was here in the hopes that we might prevent any animosity between me and the mayor from escalating.
Yes, he was sitting in the police cruiser with a newspaper in his hand and his head like this.
Like what? Down tight against his chest? Down like what?
His head's not down tight against his chest.
A security guard reported his observations of Chief Rogers a few weeks earlier.
And there was no movement of the head whenever I went by or nothing.
So he didn't respond to you?
No.
You were, what, walking by the car?
Yes.
We object to that question.
But he was walking by the car?
No, that he didn't respond. The witnesses said that he talked to Officer Rogers the first time.
The first time.
Now,
You have him not responding now.
I believe
The
the
last
witness
two times.
testified.
The security guard had written his observations of Chief Rogers in a letter solicited by a borough police officer.
Why can't he just testify? That's the reason for the letter, to get an opinion in.
It's the kind of opinion about which lay people can give. You don't need an expert witness to know whether somebody's asleep or not.
Well, I would agree with that.
Did Chief Rogers respond to you when you walked by the vehicle?
No.
The third time, did he respond to you when you walked by the vehicle?
No.
How old are you, sir?
42.
You seen people asleep during your 42 years of life on this planet?
Yes.
Did you have any opinion about Chief Rogers' state of consciousness the second or third time that you saw him?
Well, I was under the impression that there was a possibility that he was sleeping.
All right. And you wrote that in your letter, is that right?
There was no mention of any conversation between the two of you on the second and third time. Did you attempt to talk to him the second or third time?
No, I figured if he seen me, he would.
So there was no failure of response on his part to you?
No, I didn't make any attempt to respond
to talk to him?
Right.
All right, and you'd already said your hellos.
Yeah.
I mean, did you have anything you wanted to discuss with him?
No.
You do swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Then Mayor Zook gave his account of the alleged failure to respond to radio calls that led to the Rogers suspension.
Robert W. Zook.
Mr. Zook, is part of your employment being the mayor of Mount Union?
Yes, sir.
Tell us what happened.
I get in the car with Officer Kidd, and I said, we're going to have to find the chief. Something must have happened to him.
Were you concerned about his safety at that time?
Yes, sir.
Is that a normal thing to be concerned about when a policeman doesn't answer a radio call?
I would think it would be. It is with me.
All right. So what happened?
We were just about in every street in this town. We were up on the mountain behind the brickyard. So I don't know how, fate made it happen. He went up over the railroad tracks and started down the driveway toward North American Brickyard, and there sat the Mount Union Borough Police car 602 alongside, facing west. We pulled up beside it and rolled down the windows. The chief rolled down his windows, and Dave asked him, "Did you see the car?" At which point the chief said, "What car?" He didn't have any idea what the officer was talking to him about, none. And I said, "Dave, let's get the hell out of here."
So what did you do?
We started out Pennsylvania Avenue West, and Officer Kidd said to me, "My God, look there," and I turned around and Joe was on the wrong side of the road coming behind us. And I said, "Dave, I don't know what the hell to do here."
So what did you do?
I said, "Take me to President Council's house." I walked up in the step and got the President of Council out, and I said, "I think we've got a problem." I said, "Either he's sick or he's under the influence of booze." And it said, "Can we get another agency involved in this?"
It says, "The Knights of the Ku Klux Klan are watching you, and we don't like what we see." That was taped on my back window of my car when I got up yesterday morning.
This sounds like 1950 in Alabama, Mississippi. 1950, 40 years later. You know how I feel about things, and as I told them in the ministry, I am a militant. I'm a black militant who came from Kent, Ohio, Kent State University, and I always fought for the right. And I believe even if I'm a little different than Martin Luther King Jr., nonviolence. I'm a more violent minister. I believe I'm just like the American government, CIA. If I had to kill the president like they did John F. K. To get something accomplished, I believe that this is how things sometimes have to be done. But I'm sorry, this is how I was raised as a black militant, and though I'm born again, God has changed my life, but I get very bitter when I hear things, when I hear other whites say, I'm appalled what's happening in Mount Union. I didn't realize that racism was there.
But here it's so it's been subtle. It's been more subtle. But lately, as of lately, I say as of the early '80s and the late 70s, it's been more blatant. They've been more open about it.
Why? Outsiders are coming in here. People are coming in here from different areas because of the prison and other jobs. So these people, what, are from Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. They're bringing ideas, and these people, they're afraid. The Black Arts Festival, that was a threat. That means people from Philadelphia, D.C. gonna come in here. They're gonna tell these people, you know, what to do. They're afraid. And just like you said, 2 or 3 of us come to the council meeting. They always have state police, the high school affair. What did they have? Police is all over the 22. Only less than 200-300 people was there, but yet they had them staged out. Why? They're afraid. So that's why I said they must think we bring in the Black Panther Party in. You know? They must think that because they're afraid.
I fought in Vietnam for 10 years. And then to come back to America, you're still a nigger. You're still a second-class citizen. And like you, while we ask for what is rightfully ours, we don't have any people, black people in America that were born out of slavery. Most of us were born here and guaranteed certain rights, and we can't get those. And the same people play the little game. You know, once a year we'll have the Martin Luther King celebration. Yeah, right. But Unity. The next day it's back to business as usual. And if you say you are against fighting the war in Saudi Arabia, you are termed anti-American. If you say you're against racism, political and social and economic injustice in America, you're anti-American because the government sanctioned these things. This is why people do. You know, our problem as black people is we don't want to make the commitment. And the commitment simply means we must be willing to die. And we are not willing to do this. Right. We're willing to talk a good game, but we're not willing to do it. That's the problem we have. And I look around and where are the people in the community? They're not even here.
See, that's what I'm saying. See, because I guess I'm getting more black militant, I can't help it. But because white man has brainwashed black people.
And you know, I don't attend church as much as I should, and I think one of the reasons that I don't is because I'm so frustrated and I'm so angry. I cannot think about God when I'm angry on the inside and with all the frustration that I have on the inside of me right now. I spent 12 years in the military, 2 years in Vietnam. And then to come back here and to see, and still, the stuff is still going on. This is 1990. We're 10 years from the year 2000. How long? How long do we have to live with racism, bigotry, and prejudice? You know, what do we have to do, you know, to show that we should be, you know, we just equal? I'm not asking you to give me anything. All I'm asking for is the same equal opportunity to live my life in peace and tranquility, and to raise my children, let them have the same opportunity that every other American. You know, I almost get to the point where now, and I ask God to help me that I want to go back to the 60s. I want to get back into the 60s where the Black Panthers just, you know, and all you needed was a match.
This is all I said. That's
you know,
what I said
a penny book of...
I call the Black Mafia. I know some people. You know, and I said, bomb this town and kill people to make this thing right. And they think I'm crazy. But the way you talk like this is to stir people's mind. You use psychology on people to see where they're coming from. And
this
then...
is the only time they listen.
Right. That's the only time you listen, when you go violence. Right. And we know, I don't want violence and I don't want nobody to die. But sometimes you have to say that to what? Disturb their minds, not only the whites, but black people who are so complacent.
It was a case of controversy and commitment. And the important questions: are you willing to die? Where are the people? Do you hear what I'm saying? Were only partially answered. Anger can be a powerful force for change. It can also be powerfully self-destructive. In this case, it was, for the most part, neither. Joe Rogers accepted an out-of-court settlement of his discrimination lawsuit and moved out of Mount Union to the Harrisburg area. Reverend Marvin Philip Morris was reassigned and is currently stirring people's minds in northwestern Pennsylvania. And Jeanette Stennett has reduced her involvement in community affairs because of family obligations, but expects to return to the fray because, as she says, nothing has changed. Change, social change, is often incremental, even glacial. Public interest and anger boils up and then settles down. Life goes on. But economic change can be more rapid and effective, as Mount Union is finding out. A 350-worker electronics plant is under construction, and a McDonald's fast food restaurant recently opened. Some things do change. For Penn State Public Broadcasting, I'm P.J. O'Connell.